So you like Star Wars?
Of course I like Star Wars.
See, that's where you and I differ a little bit. I'm not a Star Wars fan.
What are you, an Avatar girl?
Well, not even Avatar. I did watch Avatar the other day, but I'm more of like a.
I know, it was on TV. I was watching it.
No, I was I'm more of like Harry Potter, Ready Player One.
The movie was great.
It was a great movie.
Mm-hmm. Cool, we're live.
Oh, hey.
Welcome. Thank you very much for being on the show with me.
Oh yeah.
I thought usually when I do this, I kind of, go through the what do you do? Like, welcome here. Tell me a little bit about yourself. We already know each other a little well. Yeah. And I recently had an experience, which is part of the reason why I thought it was so cool to have you on, because I recently hired a personal trainer.
Okay.
And I've really been into fitness most of my life and always just kind of took it upon myself to work out. And now that I'm working with this guy, it's really, really kind of changed the way I approach some of it. And I guess the question I wanted to just kind of get off and get your thoughts on it. He hasn't taught me anything, at least in terms of like the mechanics and the exercises, that I didn't already know. And I'm not sure if like I hire him because of his expertise in fitness or just because it's somebody like watching me so that I can't slack off when I'm working out. What do you think is more valuable? Do you think it's the actual knowledge of like, do the exercise this way, these are the mechanics, this is what you have to do to get this kind of result? Or do you think it's more like, I don't want to say cheerleader, but somebody that like keeps you accountable?
I was going to say that exactly, actually, is that I think accountability is 50% of the reason why someone like myself would get hired. For example, I have a client who is almost 60 years old and she's owned gyms. She's knows her fitness like the back of her hand. But she comes to me because I give her almost like a new I do give her new like material, kind of. I give her new material. I also give her that extra push that she needs. And I know even myself that if I have someone with me, it helps me. So I definitely think that accountability is a huge portion of it. But I mean, I think with as expensive and how much of a commitment it is, both financially and physically, you should be walking away with some kind of new knowledge, whether it's like something to freshen up, as far as like what's new or something. But I mean, like I said, some people just have it where they can just kind of go and they want that extra push and, sense of routine.
Yeah, I always thought I was pretty self-motivated. I don't know if self-motivated is the word, because everyone can be motivated, but when you're tired, it's hard if you're alone to really just take it that extra notch. I mean, I don't care how tough you say you are. Like when you're really in a lot of pain, it sucks,
Yeah.
And I think you're right though, because I've learned just some new things that I didn't know before, especially with core stuff. I guess I'm like one of the typical men with fitness where I don't think about my core enough, so he's really, really helped me out with that. But I just, man, I don't know, like sometimes I'm doing this. I thought it was really interesting.
It's and I think it's important also to remember that fitness and everything is anything in regards to fitness and even in nutrition, it's ever changing. So it's just constant. There's constant change. So you're thinking you're ahead of the bar and you've got, a master's and a PhD and this and that and the other in, kinesiology and, something like kinesiology. I mean, that's, your anatomy, that's how your body, that's movement. So that is kind of a constant. But something like what is considered beneficial for our bodies is always changing. So that's one thing you can be sure about in fitness, is that it's never going to be a constant. And that's like when you're getting these certifications, especially the national certifications, you have to take a new test every 2 years to get the new material. So, I think that's important too, to stay up with, what's going on in the world of fitness, how, functional exercise is kind of, being a lot, is being utilized a lot more because it serves a function in your life. And if you think you have this trainer, there should be some kind of like, it should be goal oriented. You know what I mean? It's like, even if it's something as simple as I just want to be able to pick up my cat a little bit more better.
Of course, or pick up my kids without getting so tired.
Right. And it's like moms, they just like, that's their goal. They just want to be able to, fit into this or that. And, so there should be a goal. Like I'm not, do you have a sport, like a specific sport that you play?
I used to play a lot of lacrosse.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. No basketball ever, huh?
No, I hated it. No and everybody way. Just always looked at me. He's like, oh man, you want to play basketball? I was like, no, I hate it. But I was just tall, so everybody thought I was good at it. I played soccer and I played lacrosse, but mostly lacrosse because I liked hitting people and I liked getting hit. I liked the rough part about it. So hold on. I thought that was fascinating what you said about having to kind of refresh your skill set every 2 years with a new test. And I talk about this a lot because I find that to be really interesting, like the evolution of sports science. And sometimes, you said nutrition as well, and I'm assuming that you're just as much into nutrition as you are like exercise, and I am as well. So we'll definitely get into that too. So when we were growing up, I mean, I'm 32, it was only a couple of years ago, but it was way more into just lifting and especially like powerlifting stuff. I mean, squats and deadlifts, and I think all of that is still really important. But it seems like the trend, I guess you would call it, has evolved way more into the functional type fitness that you talk about, like a lot of, they call it plyos, like the jumping around and jump squats and burpees.
Things like that. So that's a little bit more, I would say functional is more putting your body through movements that are more natural. So like pulling and pressing and, doing things that are more lifestyle or like I said, exercises that serve a function. So like reaches, things like that, incorporating more than one body part at once. So like a single leg deadlift to a press or a reach to a high pull.
All the stuff that just looks like you're bouncing around having
circus
fun,
act.
But is terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible. And then just like doing them in succession and, also getting a cardio response from it, and like tackling different energy systems and, there's a time and a place for compound movements such as deadlifts and squats. And those are a deadlift, a squat, a heavy bench press.
Clean.
Yes, clean and press. So that's power. So on more full body movements, those are the best to build your core, just holding the weight in itself, going super, super heavy. And they're, like 1 RMs. There's a time and a place for 1 RMs.
What's that?
If you're 87 years old, there's not really a place for that. And that's a 1 rep max.
Oh yeah.
So for athletes, that's just the utilization of power. It's like how much power, can I gather up here to lift this weight? Without compromising form and things like that. So, there's absolutely, I think that's been a little bit meddled as far as like when it's beneficial, when it's not, because of the fads, like the CrossFits and listen, done well, I'm sure that, they can be.
You're not into CrossFit?
I have nothing against the concept of CrossFit. I think it's when people, compromise in their form to get to a certain rep number or to win a competition or do things like that, because I just I like to look at things logically and to just see when I see a sport, or if I have a client that says to me, I want to start spinning, or I want to start doing this, I want to do this, but their goal is to be a certain way, I say, okay, I want you to look at all the spinners that you see, and I want you to see, do you like their body? And, then I would say, okay, then, so I try to look at things very logically. And with CrossFit, most of my clients, or most of the demographic that I've seen that do CrossFit, have a knee sleeve, have an elbow sleeve, have some kind of outstanding injury. And I'm not saying that,
because you're going to upset some people by saying that.
Exactly. And I'm not saying that to upset people. I'm saying to be careful, because done improperly, that's the thing, is it's just, you're more doing a movement like a snatch or a power clean, or maxing out on deadlifts and things of the like, or doing your kips and stuff. You just have to be very careful. And that's all I'm saying. The movements themselves are awesome.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's the way in which they go about, the sequencing or the rep ranges or things like that. And that's all I'm saying, is because I'm all about anything that gets you up out of bed and gives you a routine.
Yes.
And gives you a sense of community.
Yeah.
I'm all about it.
I'm exactly in line with you are with that. I think that the CrossFit community almost shoots themselves in the foot a little bit by, they just stay at like an 11. And if they stayed at like an 8, they would have so fewer injuries, because when you're doing those kind of movements, and I've done CrossFit a lot and I really, really enjoy it. But when you're doing those kind of movements, like, it's basically impossible to be able to do them consistently when you're really tired and have your form perfect. I mean, you have to do it for a long time to build that kind of endurance, and compound movements are tough. I mean, I've been doing, what's this one, a clean?
Yep.
Just a clean. I've been doing those for 2 years, and there's still times where I feel like, oh, you kind of, you balance out a little bit.
Of course.
So the movements are great, but with that being said, if it's CrossFit or nothing, then do that, because I think it's way worse for your health to just
not do
anything. Nothing. Yeah.
Right.
Does it like concern you, a lot of the health crisis that we have around here? Is it something you think about a lot? Because I think about it a whole lot.
Yes, I think about it from a different perspective, though. So I think of it more as, I get concerned as well. But I, for example, had a client who was, I think, 100 pounds, and she was 16 years old. She was 100 pounds. She told me she wanted to lose 10 pounds. And this girl was very small. And I think I'm more concerned about the image-based society that we live in, and the fact that there are these quick fixes, and there are these absolute major confusions, and so much wrong in people's education as far as like the right way to, if you want to lose, or the right way to go about, looking your best or whatever. But with all this freaking Instagram and all that shit, like,
it fucks with your head.
Oh my gosh. Like, I'll be honest, full disclosure, I just got off Instagram.
Yeah, I deleted my Facebook for like 3 months. Actually, I put it back up to make that post on Who Wants to Be on My Podcast.
Yeah.
And I think I'm just going to get rid of it again. My life is way better without it.
I'm not over here saying like, hey, I'm a confident, I have my days, and I think everyone has their days.
Sure.
But if I were to look at Instagram and look at everyone's good days, and I
all
had
the time,
some bad days,
because there's only good days,
I'd be like, like, what's happening? Like, so I would find myself like feeling sorry for myself. Like, man, why are these people's lives so good?
Yeah.
And I'm like, and so that I'm at, and I'm not, see, I could talk about the fitness Instagram all day.
I think it's a real problem.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I honestly do. And I think as somebody who's on the internet a lot, and it's funny that you brought this up, because this sort of topic seems to touch on like every other sort of industry that I work in. You know, we have fitness. Even just a couple weeks ago, I had a woman who was the head maestra for the South Florida Symphony, and she was talking about how social media kind of screws up her industry a little bit. With the fitness and more particularly with the body image stuff, I think it can be particularly damaging. And I'm glad that you brought that up, because I was just having this conversation yesterday, and honestly, it's something that even I kind of struggle to talk about. And I write a blog post on my website every day, and I started writing about this, and I actually deleted it, which is something that I really don't do often, just because of how it made me feel. But as a guy, uh, I think that can be just as powerful, probably more powerful for women, but I think men struggle with it as well. Um, I've been eating better, in better shape fitness wise than probably I've ever been. And I made it a point to not think about how my body looks, but just to think about how it's working. And I can honestly say, like, in the thousands of people that are going to listen to this, like, my body's working really great right now, and I feel great. And for some reason, I wasn't even thinking about it before I jumped in the shower the other day. I weighed myself, and I'm lighter than I think I've ever been, probably since high school. I weighed like 166, and I'm 6'2". Like, that's pretty light for me. But I don't feel it. Like, normally I would have insecurities to being skinny, and I could feel my hip bones sticking out a little bit. Um, I'm not feeling that way, but still, there's these like really strange um standards, I guess, that we sort of put on ourselves in terms of like measurement with weight and numbers and like and body fat. And bodies are really, really complicated, and like everybody's body just does its own thing. And you know what, and I guess for me, I know I'm kind of like just sharing this with you a little bit, but it takes some time to just sort of like be comfortable with, like, this is just how my body works. And no matter how bad you try to force it, there's always going to be like that thing. We just have to accept it. Like, this is how my shit runs, and I got to be cool with it.
I think that's so cool that you are, because I'll be the first to tell you, it's one thing to say you're happy with, everything you got going on, but this one thing to actually feel it. And being in the industry that I'm in, even nowadays, if you're a trainer, you're looking, you're on point. You've got an Instagram with 10,000, 20,000, 100,000 followers. You're doing jump squats for 3 hours, and you got this big ass, which is actually ass shots. And it's like, but it's like one day everyone likes a big butt. Another day everyone likes a thigh gap. You're trying to fucking but you're trying to keep up. And it's like, how can I have a big butt and thigh gap? And then I got abs
It's not
at the
a
same
possible
time.
thing.
I gotta eat more to get a big butt, but then I'm gonna get fat. And then like, what? Like you can't keep up. And then, oh my gosh, I don't have big boobs. I gotta get my boobs done. Like, let me tell you, to try and keep up with the standards that you see is like, it's just impossible. And now with like, I'll be the first to tell you, I ain't friggin' into the filtration, all that stuff. Because there are apps I don't even know exist. I'll have friends like take a picture, they'll send it to me, and they'll be like, all right, I'm gonna post this. And they post something, I'm like, who is that?
That's not my friend.
That ain't you. And that definitely ain't me. Like, what happened to the shit that was all over my face? Like, so, I mean, trying to keep up with like, I read this really funny meme the other day, and like, it was like these two people sitting at dinner on a first date, and this guy's sitting there, and he's like, he's like, I didn't expect this. You didn't wear your bunny ears, or the dog ears, or whatever it was. Yeah, he's like, you don't look the same. You didn't wear your dog ears, and it was just like, it's so true, because like, long story short, I had to give myself a little detox on Instagram, because I was like, this is not okay that I'm questioning myself, because at the end of the day, and now I'm going off topic because this isn't about fitness, but this is what I believe.
But it is.
Right. But this is what I believe, is that you're going to, whatever you look like, whatever you got going on, someone is going to like all of it. You know what I mean? So there's going to be someone that likes maybe you got a big butt, maybe you got a small butt, maybe you got big boobs, you got small boobs. Someone's gonna love that shit. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like, for me, I was like, who is Instagram to make me? So I don't know. It's like, and especially with what I do, and especially how I try to interact with women, I try to make them feel their best and also look their best and try to like balance it all out. So I was like, well, I can't be, feeling a type of way that I wouldn't want my clients to be feeling.
Yeah.
So
I think they can probably feel it as well through some kind of weird transcendence.
They're all like, they got the ESP, they got everything. They're just like, they feels my energy.
It's just so interesting that you bring this up because, man, where do I even start with this story? So I guess about 6 months ago, I participated in this marketing class because it's what I do. It's my business. I do online marketing and like I fucking love it. It's like the funnest thing in the world to me. And we were just talking about this in the other room about how I took social media away from a service that I provide. And I started writing a lot about how I'm trying to say this without getting too deep on you, but
you get deep, that's all right.
But social media within itself isn't actually work. It's not like a thing that you produce of value, like, so in your case, the training is the work. The Instagram or the social media in general isn't like a body of work that you can provide, but we're sort of confusing it, the two, where we look at it and we think this person has some kind of following, so they must be doing a lot of work. They must be doing good work, but like it's not. It's just really not. All it is a tool. It's just an exposure tool. And so when people see that, it can only intensify. I mean, I guess kind of like violence in movies, right? Like you can't go backwards. You have to keep going a little bit crazier and a little bit crazier. And I just felt like we were hitting this kind of pit point where what started off, and this was only a couple years ago, but started off as like a cool photography app. Like, you remember when Instagram first came out? We were taking like going for walks in nature and taking pictures. You'd be like, oh, like I'm a photographer now, But
sepia.
Exactly. But then it just turned into this like this all or nothing type platform, and it lost its value for me. And so I axed all of it and I got back into doing the shit that I really love to do, which is just the writing. So even though from like a marketing standpoint, you're kind of cutting out a tool, I still think that like I'm better off without it, because now my tool is the actual product or the actual like service that like I can provide, and not some fabricated thing where I can like try to convince everybody that this is what they'll get from working for me. You can let the results speak for themselves a little bit more.
That's awesome. But you will reap the benefits from that because you're working for authenticity and you're working because you care. So you're not working, you do wonderful things. You work with, treatment centers, and you do things where people are actually helping people. So you have integrity, and you are, when people are on social media and they get so obsessed with it, and all of a sudden you find out they buy followers, and it becomes all about what you perceive. So it's all up to how you interpret it. So this becomes, like you said, it's almost just like this like thing that doesn't really exist, and it's interpreted how you want to interpret it. And it's just it's like some intangible craziness. So it's like, I think anyone
right, because when I try to explain it, I don't even necessarily know what I'm saying. It's like this thing that like isn't really there, but it still has a ton of power.
So much power.
Yeah, it is so much.
It's so much power, because we also live in a world which some people don't live in this world, but world of a lot of people who like to follow. So we live with a lot of, so things are taken as truths that aren't necessarily truths, but they're seemingly so. So a lot of times on social media, as we've seen, things go viral, things aren't true, things, that's where it holds the power, is once it gets that retention and the big, it turns into and all of a sudden these people that I don't know how they have 3 million followers and all these people are following them and taking what they do as
just
and I'm
complete
seeing
face
what they
value.
do and I'm like, no, please, that's not what's going to, build your abs. That's not what's going to, make you healthier or make you, that's not what it is, but it's just what's popular. So I've found that you can have success within your own little world. So you can, unless you want to be known in Ireland and known for training in here, you have the opportunity to personally help and change the lives of people in your own space. And there's a lot of them. And there's not enough. You only have one of you.
Yeah.
And for me personally, like, I am so fine with that. Like, I'm so fine with how would I be able to, really interact with thousands of people that want to buy my online programming. I think when people, and I'm not saying anything bad about it. Like, if you know what you're doing and you're over here selling your program and helping people with their fitness and they have testimonials and everything, that is awesome. Like, that is so cool. But I'm like you, and I like the authenticity and I like the relationships that I build.
Yeah.
With my clients, like, I'm at their baby showers, I'm at their weddings. Colin and Jesse.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like you that's in a business like this, in something so
personal.
Yeah. With their body, like you want to have just a better relationship, and you can find success. Like, there is success in that. Like, you could do well for yourself.
Absolutely.
If you keep retention with those clients, it's a good way to make a living if you do it with the right, if you do it the right way and with the right, like value, behind it. So
I want to talk about the nutrition stuff because I'm always fascinated with that, but I'll stay on this one real quick just because you said something that I think the words for it sort of came into play when you're talking about like a one-on-one type deal. And differentiating that between using the internet to like sell an online course. So I guess what you're losing with the online part of it is like the scale, right? You're losing the power to have like one of me do the work of like 100 people. But even with that scale, you're losing what you were talking about, which is probably even more powerful. And that's the feeling that you give somebody, right? Because that's what it is. I mean, sure, they're hiring us for our skill set and our knowledge, but if you look at training from like a business standpoint, just like any other business, like people do business with people they know and like. So in order to have that, then you have to kind of sacrifice the scalability of it. And it seems to me like when you said it that you're just very, very comfortable with doing it that way. And that's great because I've struggled with that a lot too. I mean, I've lost a lot of that scale since I axed all of this stuff up, and I can see it in like my traffic numbers, but I've gained. So for instance, people reply 10, 20 a day to like every post that I write now. And it's not just people, it's like the same people over and over again saying like, hey, I really enjoyed your message today. I really did this. And you play games in your head. It's like, oh, okay, I need to take this. I need to ramp it up a little bit longer or a little bit further. But then you also tell yourself like, okay, pull it back, because if you ramp it up, you're going to lose those like intimate relationships that you were able to build through your work. Right. It was just refreshing to hear you say that. So I don't mean to kind of harp on it.
No, it's awesome.
Great. Nutrition.
Yes.
I'll start it off with just a controversial type topic. How much of people's health problems, both physical and mental, do you think is like diet and food related?
Oh my gosh.
And I'm giving you permission to go off on this, by the way.
I think it's, I mean, I think there are environmental things that can, kind of be like a detriment to our health, but oh my gosh, do I think things can be healed with diet? Absolutely. 100%. I think you're like 90% able to heal most things with your diet. With inflammation, I think most
Well, that's the big one, right?
diseases come from inflammation.
Yeah.
And it comes from, see, I also am into a little bit of the conspiracy stuff, so I can like
I'd love to hear about it.
I could go so about like the sugar.
Well, that's not a conspiracy.
Right. I mean, it's just known that that'll kill you. No, but like, sugar, like that, like things like that. And like GMOs and once you stray from like whole foods and, just getting like your basic like macronutrients, but from all like the right sources, that's when things get a little muddled. And now, especially with all the fads and stuff, like we said, we discussed that all goes hand in hand. Yeah, I absolutely believe in that.
Well, I think what you were going to with the sugar thing is there were, I mean, press releases, and I can find, I'll put show notes into it on the blog article, because I don't know exactly what I'm talking about, but I know it's a real thing where sugar companies had paid scientists to make all these press releases saying that the reason for heart disease was because of fat and cholesterol. And we know that's all complete bullshit. Like fat and cholesterol is, it's basically nothing. It's like a thing. You can have as much of it as you want, as long as there's nothing in front of it, right? In terms of like your metabolic system that keeps it from burning off.
Right.
So I can find that. I mean, I don't want to speak for you. I think that's what you were talking about with the conspiracy theory.
Yeah, no, it's just exactly. It's what's, put in front of us. People just don't take the time to, I mean, but there's the whole like fluoride thing, all these chemicals that are deemed safe, but they're, things like that. And I think those all kind of accumulate, like they all can accumulate and, create, inflammation and all of these mental health issues. And I mean, my nephew, he's 10, so this is so difficult to,
we're young kids, especially because they don't know any better.
Young kids especially.
Yeah.
But he has terrible eczema and an allergic reactions. I was in Orlando over the weekend, and we had just been eating, whatever we were eating, whatever we had access to. And at night, he just erupted in hives all over his face, his neck, here. I mean, and you just don't, there's something that's triggering some major body trauma.
Yeah.
And there are specific things that cause allergies, and that's, sometimes it can be nuts, but that's, dairy, that's sugar, that's, certain things that our body just rejects. And there's a reason for that, So do I think eliminating specific things could heal you? Absolutely. 100%.
This might be a little bit crazy of a thing to say, just because I don't have the science to back it up, and I like saying things that have proof behind it. But like in my mind, sometimes I feel like half of our problems could completely go away if everyone just stopped eating sugar.
100%.
I mean, like, I really fucking do. Yeah.
I agree, and I absolutely agree with you, because that is not, I mean, especially refined sugar.
Yeah, because there's nothing good about it.
There's no nutritional value to that. And even salt, like salt, there's value to.
Yeah.
So salt you need. There's iodine. There's like, things that you need, the minerals in salt. Sugar, you can. So with diabetics and things of the like, you can stabilize blood sugar with apple cider vinegar. You can stabilize blood sugar even with like carrots or, things. And I'm not saying this like from a medical standpoint, like on behalf of, but they're, the fruit drinks, the, any added sugars, there is no, I am totally confident in that, and artificial sweeteners completely causing inflammation and bringing about, diseases that your body, absolutely.
So what are your thoughts on dairy then? Because that's always the weird middle ground. You don't like it?
I'm at that middle ground too. I sometimes, if I don't know the right answer, I say about what it does to my body personally. I feel I have a weird personal
you got like a weird smile when you say it.
Is that I think it makes me retain water. Okay. So I think dairy I think there's a time and a place for raw dairy. Like fermented things. Okay. So I think like that kind of stuff can be beneficial for your gut and like the probiotics and things of the like. I think you can get probiotics elsewhere. I have not really had, there were periods where I would go months and months without having a speck of dairy, and my health was awesome. Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and say that it's not crucial. I was getting my calcium from just copious amounts of greens, like heavy greens.
Because there's calcium in kale and broccoli, right?
Calcium in kale and broccoli, yeah. Calcium in chia seeds, calcium in fortified milks. Even, you're not going to get that obviously naturally occurring, but there's calcium. There are so many different ways to get calcium. And I think people are just under the impression that they have to have, milk and, that kind of dairy and the cheeses and stuff. I mean, it's good, but
it tastes really fucking good.
It tastes good. And even but I'll tell you, I am real sensitive to that milk taste now. Yeah. I even had I had whey protein, and I couldn't really down it. It was just too you could taste that dairy. And I had ice cream the other day, and that was good, but it was but there was a difference. I felt a difference. Yeah. That could have been it because it was Godiva and there's a lot of sugar in it too. So.
Yeah, the dairy one really bums me out.
Yeah.
Because it's the more and more I read about it, the more I'm just you have a crazy hypothesis you talked about. My hypothesis is this, and I don't even know if it's a hypothesis. It's more of just a standard of, at the end of the day, this is what it comes down to. And for me, it's, you can basically figure out the best diet by just looking at how we evolved. I mean, it's pretty common fucking knowledge, right? And so the more I think about it, I just realize that it just wasn't, it's not what we're supposed to have.
Right.
It's just not what we're supposed to have. And it sucks because I really love chocolate milk.
Chocolate milk is fantastic, but you also have to think of it. What is a commodity? What is a commodity? What sells? What makes, a lot of money in big amounts? Milk. You have the cow, you can manufacture the milk. Mm-hmm. Fluoride. It's waste, but they can make money off of it. So they're going to sell it, and they're going to sell it, and they're going to sell it. And they're going to find the one little
hold
tiny...
on. I don't mean to cut you off. Where would you put fluoride? In toothpaste and stuff, right?
Yes, you put fluoride in toothpaste. Yeah. So fluoride is actually a waste product that we have a lot of, that disposing of would cost money. So instead, they put it in toothpaste and they put it in our water system. Yeah. And there's one maybe slight benefit, and that's to prevent cavities. There's about 1 million things that are wrong with fluoride. Wow. That are so they use the one little thing, and they put it, they make you switch your mouth with it, so do all this. So that's why people are catching on. That's why there's everything fluoride free, everything this, everything that, because essentially it's something that we can sell. And that's probably, I'm probably going to upset some
people. Is that one of your conspiracy theories,
though? That's a conspiracy theory. And so that, but how we evolve, I think that's, a great, mind you, I'm thinking of more along the lines of just things that grow naturally. I'm not, as far as what we evolved, I'm a woman of the Lord, so I don't know about evolution and stuff, as far as that. But I am thinking as like as far as what comes from the earth and what is, you know, what we would be able to find that grows naturally. And that's your natural fats, that's your nuts, that's your avocados, that's a lot of fats, that's a lot of, you know, protein, good meats.
Yeah.
We didn't have all that shit in our meats, you know, back when, you know, cows and stuff were a little more pure. And you know, greens and vegetables and, you know, naturally you know, grains that are, you know, good grains. I'm kind of weary on some of them.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
I've was reading about this the other day, especially because my fiance is really into the grain stuff, and I eat oatmeal every morning, and like I fucking love it, but man, it's
I
still
know.
just another one of
It's
those things
another
where it's
one.
like there's just no way to get around the fact that it's bleached.
Yeah.
First off, like oats don't look like that.
Right.
They don't look bright white.
Right.
And the like we were talking about before with scalability, you can't grow that much of it without just pumping it full of stuff. It's not like a possible thing. You know, like
Right.
if you try to grow some oatmeal in your backyard or something, it's just not going to work that way. Like you have to manufacture it.
Right.
And so when I talk about, you know, like the evolution part of it, I'm with you. Like what did your body basically, like what is my body made out of?
Right.
And then like how can I put more of that inside of it?
Right.
And there's just no way that refined grains are part of that.
Yeah. I mean, then that's it. That's true to think, you know, and you also have to think like our body calorically, calories are fat, protein, and carbohydrates. And that's where they get the idea of macronutrients. So if that's all that you need, that's not sugar.
Yeah.
That's not, you know, all of these other aspartame. That's not, you know, sodas and things like that. Like we need those 3 nutrients. But for cellular function, for energy production, for blood, for, you know, just everything. And those are the 3 properties that you need. So that's, you know, even for, you know, carbohydrates, that's still, you're still stabilizing your blood sugar with a sweet potato. You're still, you know, so some things are a little higher on the glycemic index, some things are a little bit lower on the glycemic index, but it's like that's essentially what you need to survive. And obviously minerals, you know, minerals and water, lots and lots of water. But and I think that's what people kind of forget is that everything else is just added. And however you get the carbohydrates, I personally like legumes. Like I like my chickpeas, I like my lentils, and I try to sprout them and
Like
do that all
carrots.
myself. Carrots are great.
Yeah.
That's you know, I love sweet potatoes.
Oh man,
Sweet
best food
potatoes,
ever made.
Best food ever. And that's just, I mean, that is, you have to be careful. Just, I like to buy those organic just because they're a little more vulnerable to like pesticides and stuff. But like grains, like you said, they're very just manufactured food group. It's a very manufactured food group. You know, the steel cut oats, those are great, but they take 10 hours to freaking make. So it's like you also want convenience. So it's hard. They don't make it easy.
Sweet potatoes are perfect. You seem like you have a real appreciation for how we work. Yeah. For like how the body works.
Oh yeah.
Did you always have that? Like where did it come from?
I think it's because I did it wrong for so long. How
so?
So when I was in high school, I was always an athlete. I was a gymnast for 10 years. And I got to high school and then gymnastics got a little too expensive for my sweet mama. So my mom's like, all right, we're going to do high school cheerleading. And that's what's going to happen. And I was like, great. And I played soccer, did track, flag football, the whole 9. I was a little teeny tiny little thing. And I just always was. Like, I always was. And one day I was like, this was during cheerleading. I remember I was in a dressing room and I saw like a cellulite. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is this? So from that day on, I started running 5 miles a day and not eating barely.
Wow.
And I was running myself into the ground thinking I was doing everything right. And I remember I had a teacher come up to me and he was like, listen, you're not healthy.
Recognize you had a problem.
He's like, there's a problem, and I'm telling you this because I care about you. And I will never, ever forget
How old
this
were
guy.
you?
I was 16. I will never forget this guy because no one would tell me. None of my friends, none of, and I was like, wow, I don't think I'm doing this right. And I was seeing, and then I was like looking at myself and I had lost like a lot of weight, and I lost a lot of weight really, really fast, and it was affecting my quality of life and things like that. And I realized I had a problem. So then I was like, okay, so now I vow to try to figure this out, doing it the right way. But I was still trying to figure it out. I started lifting more. I started doing things that I felt like, were better for my body, but I still didn't really figure it out until college. And then I got more of like a healthy mindset, and that's what forced me into getting educated in fitness and nutrition and doing it properly, so that, I could get what I want in a body, with what I got. That's another thing, is every body is different. And that's what literally every single human body is different. And you work with your frame, and you work with, within your parameters and your what is perfect for you.
Sure.
And so, that's really what catapulted me into that. And so yeah, like I said, I was doing everything wrong. I was just barely eating, but it was like not eating what I was eating, like
celery and shit.
Yeah, but like canned food, and like just like, oh well, this has no fat in it, so I'm gonna do. And I was running myself into the ground.
Were you counting calories a lot?
That's interesting, but I wasn't counting calories.
No.
I was just trying not to eat I wouldn't eat past a certain time at night. I wouldn't, and just a lot of just trying to. I was doing it for what I would look like and not how I would feel. So, like you said, I was just, and I didn't look good. I did not.
That's
look
the
good.
fucking weird thing about. I don't want to label if you would classify it as an eating disorder or not.
Totally.
I think that's probably up to you.
I
would probably say so as well. I have a lot of
disordered
experience.
way of eating. It
well,
was right.
Sure.
Which would be right.
There you go.
Classify it as an eating disorder.
I always think that the warped thinking about it, which from somebody that just has a ton of experience with like addiction and eating disorders and stuff like that, both personally and with people I love, and also like with working with other people, the thing that always gives me this like almost healthy respect for it is how effective it is in twisting your way of thinking. Because in your mind, you would probably think that like this is what I'm going for, like what I'm supposed to look like. And then 10 years later, you probably might see pictures of yourself when you were like that age. It's like, oh man, like how did I think that was working for me?
Right.
And I find that to be just the topic within itself is important, and it's a conversation that we don't talk about, especially because out of all the addictions and stuff that I've worked with, I've never ever in my life seen something as like fucking cruel as eating disorders are. I really, really haven't. And I've seen the whole thing. You know what I mean? I've lost a bunch of friends to heroin overdoses. I mean, I've been through it myself. I've never seen anything that can like warp a mind like an eating disorder can. And I think it's important that women especially, but men also.
And men don't get enough.
Yeah.
Men don't get enough, and they deal with those same demons. And
sure do.
There's such a stigma against that kind of issue. And it's so, and it generally people with eating disorders have some kind of obsessive compulsive something going on otherwise.
Definitely.
That's created some addiction, some, so it's not just an eating disorder. It's the rituals, it's the obsessions. It's because at the end of the day, you look at yourself and you're like, wow, I'm ashamed of how I look, but you continue. So there's something off with that.
Wow.
And that's something that needs to be tackled first. And that's, with me personally, it was the obsessive compulsive behavior. So I have that anyways. So that was just the flavor of the day, you know? And so that's really where it stems from. And it's so, and they say that, and especially now, it's so difficult because even anywhere, comparison is the thief of joy. So you're going to compare yourself, you're always going to be upset because that shit is ever changing, ever evolving. You're comparing yourself to things that are, I think of ideals as non-existent as well. Just like we were talking about social media, ideals are these made up things that don't exist, these intangible ideas that have retention and just have evolved for whatever reason. And beauty ideals, you can't keep up. And it's so, I think now, and like going back to the social media thing, now it's just more apparent and easier to fall into that trap.
Yeah.
So I think it's so important for people to be open about that.
Yeah.
Because that you don't want to have, it's not cool to have that feeling. It's not something that, it's not something to be proud of. It's not something, you don't want that. There's
really
nothing worse. And insecurity has put me on my freaking ass before. And I think everyone could probably say that at some point it has. And, I don't even know where I was going with this, but I mean, I think that the sexiest thing that a woman and a man can be is just confident. And if you can have that, then I freaking envy you. You know what I mean? Like, you are the ultimate. Like, you exude, people can smell that out from a freaking mile away.
They really can.
You're a confident individual. You are beautiful, So, yeah, I mean, that's, like I said, that's another thing. Beauty ideals don't exist. They were simply made up and, perpetuated.
I really appreciate you being vulnerable in that sense, because I saw you this entire podcast. You are very poised and like delivering what it is that you say. And that's the first time I've kind of seen you get a little bit squirmy, where like, what is it that I'm like trying to communicate here?
Yeah.
And I think it's important for people to see that, because, and forgive me for just being so blunt, but I would think that somebody would look at you like, you're in great shape, you're beautiful, you probably have you're intelligent. So somebody would probably look at you and think, what on earth does this girl have to be like insecure about, But it's everybody. Like, being human is a weird thing, like it's a weird thing. And with the women and the eating stuff in particular, that's just one area that there's so much shame around it. And almost talking about it is even more stigmatized than I think some of the drug addiction stuff. And I don't like it. And I think there needs to be some, I don't know what the word is, some leaders who really come forward and just say like, look, this happened to me too. Because that's really all it takes, is like some little girl seeing somebody that they idolize that says, oh, this person is vulnerable, but like is still confident, right? Because that's what you're attracted to. You're attracted. I'll give you a good example. I don't remember her name. She's British. Iskra, I think maybe. She's a British like former supermodel and just awful eating disorder. And when she finally got comfortable, she probably gained like 40 pounds, but like she's super hot now.
Yeah.
And she's been doing a lot of work with body image with women. And I don't know. I look at that and I think like, hell yeah. There's somebody that's just like willing to come forward and say like, this happened to me too. And I think that those words are like very, very powerful. And I just admire you for being able
Thank you.
to talk about it.
Yeah, no, it's real. Like, it's real.
It's super real
stuff. Like, there's real people, there's real feelings, there's real, like, this in cyberspace, nothing's real, you know? So you have to remember that we are still humans and capable of very real emotions, and insecurity and comparison is going to be everywhere, because you're still, even if you have this, you don't have that. And why don't I have this? But I have. So it's finding and truly finding in your heart that, being happy with what you have, who you have, just being content, and not even content, but like really appreciative and grateful.
Yeah.
And I'm getting there. Like,
yeah, me too.
It's just, you do really, really good, and then like you have like a day, but honestly, like, and listen, I'm all about finding it yourself and being, being
you gotta kind of stumble your way through, right?
Yeah, you gotta stumble your way through, but it really helps if you have a good partner, and you have a partner that makes you feel, and reassures you, and says, and someone that you exist with every day.
Yeah.
Just being that person. And I think that that helps. Like, I think you should initially be confident in yourself for you, and no matter what, you're going to be okay, and you're going to be enough for someone. And that's all, that you're going to be everything for someone and yourself.
Yeah.
I think people get caught up in not being good enough for someone, and if they're not, they just need to know that that shouldn't be who you're spending your time with or giving yourself to.
Yeah.
But that's a whole other topic. Yeah, I think that perfection is very relative, the most relative term on the face of the planet.
I loved what you said about comparison.
Yeah.
I can't think of a single time where I've ever compared myself to somebody else and felt good about it.
Right. It doesn't matter who they are.
Yeah, like not one time.
That quality, I don't have that quality. I'm not.
Even if I'm comparing myself in a way where like I'm telling myself that I'm better than them, I still don't feel good about it.
No.
So it's not like I'm gaining anything from this, like, I don't know, holding myself to a make-believe higher standard or something. I'm still like feeling worse at the end of the day.
Yeah. It's in anything too. You'll go to a concert and you're like, wow, I wish I could sing like that woman. It's like, singing's just not my thing.
That is one thing though, man. I was listening to this Chris Stapleton album. Like, fuck, man. I would love to be able to sing like that.
Right?
He's so good.
I know.
And I don't like country either, but he's not really country. He's kind of, I'd say, more blues.
Yeah, he's got that soul.
He's got something else. I know.
Him and JT and Chris Stapleton's actually like a very accomplished songwriter too, I guess.
Yeah, he was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and I was watching that, and he lived in Nashville for like 10 years. Apparently, like, he's just been writing songs for everybody and just making a killing. And now he just, I don't know, decided to get behind the mic. Yeah,
and like his voice is, I mean, what were you hiding back there?
I have no idea.
Like, why?
Yeah, I don't get it.
He's like, I'm just gonna, same with Charlie Puth. He was a songwriter, and then he just decides to come out. He was on like See You Again, that song See You Again for Paul Walker.
Oh yeah.
And he has like all those
with Wiz Khalifa, right?
Yeah, all those. He has very popular songs. I mean, he's not like my favorite, but he has a very unique sound. And he's another one that just was like, I guess I'll just get behind the mic.
Sure.
Like,
since I'm done writing all these songs. Yeah. Chris Stapleton lives in Nashville. I'm moving to Nashville next month, so.
No way.
Yeah, I'm hoping to run into him. Be like, oh, Chris, what's up, bro?
What are you moving to Nashville for?
My company essentially got for work. I could say the whole story. Yeah.
Sweet.
I bought a house.
Awesome.
Bought my first house in Nashville. I can't wait. I've been in South Florida for 8 years.
Awesome.
And I like it here. A lot of people like to make fun of South Florida, but it's just difficult to get too bummed out when the weather's perfect all the time and you could just go sit at the ocean. But I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm ready for something else. Well, I'm going to, because Stodzy is staying here.
Right.
So like the
Okay.
whole crew is staying. I'll have to bounce back and forth a little, but I
That's
can't
all
wait.
good. Oh, that's great.
Yeah. So to wrap things up, I would ask where people can find you on social media, but I'm not going to now.
Yeah, I mean, it exists, but I deleted my app from
From your
my
phone,
phone, so
it's
I
a
don't
good
have
first step.
access to it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, they're all at Abbey Hilton, at ABBEY Hilton, but I'm not very active on there. My business page, if you just like to see movements done correctly,
Yeah.
it's private, the page, but it's Abby's Assets,
Nice.
ABBEYS, yeah, I know, ASSETS. But really, just
They can
contact
find
me.
you.
Yeah, you'll be able to find me. I have a
Cool.
website that's floating around, but
I looked for it. It's not really floating around out there.
Yeah, it's not. Well, it should be abbeysassets.com, but if it's not, then just you'll find
I'll
me.
link it up on the
Yeah,
page.
you'll find me if you want to find me.
Abby, thank you very much. I really, really enjoyed talking to you.
Absolutely.
I had a feeling that, and I will wrap this up, I swear, but I had a feeling that like I was going to start somewhere, and then with you, just because I know you're personable, I felt like we were going to get into some cool stuff. And seriously, talking about that shit is not easy, and I appreciate you for it.
Oh yeah, anytime.
All right, guys, thank you so much for listening to the podcast. Do me a favor, leave me a rating on iTunes. It's the best thing you can do to support the show. Abby, thanks again.
Absolutely.
Talk to you guys next week. Hey, thanks, man.